Thanks for joining us, and for those people who are going to join us online, we appreciate it. We've got a little lighter crowd today because of the weather, I'm sure. We're on our third and final. We are on our third and final part of this. Lindora and I were talking today. If we had to do it again, we would have given us 4 times so that we could have came back on the 4th and kind of just debriefed on what we've heard and what had changed within us, what we learned, what questions we would have if we could have had our guests over again, and then the larger question of how is this going to make us a better neighbor? We've been talking, that's one of our goals, and we're not talking just in the biblical sense that we say good neighbors. We're talking in the literal sense of having someone next door to you who's an immigrant and seeking to be welcomed, and how can we do that the best? And then the other thing is what kind of ministry has this kicked up? And our the courageous women that came last week from Ukraine, they kicked up a lot of conversation that got directed at me and Suzanne about ministry opportunities, because their needs, being so fragile here in the country, their needs are so great. And so we do have some people working on some of those things, and you'll hear more about that as that piece at least comes to bear fruit. Tonight is our last one, and we scheduled someone who I know very well. Bhutan and I have been in, we served on the YMCA board, the local Reynoldsburg YMCA board for a number of years. I got off the board. I'm not sure, are you still on the board? What? He's off as well, so we both got off the board. But we served like 5 years. I mean, we did not bail until in an unreasonable time, in our defense. But so that was a good thing. And I'd met Bhutan years ago when he came to this church, 5 years ago probably. Kai, you're in the right spot. You're Stacy's friends, aren't you? Anikra? I'm sorry, I was close. Bhutan came 5 years ago and told us, gave me all sorts of great information about our Nepalese neighbors that were moving into this particular part of east side of Columbus that I had known, and gave me a good insight. And then we've met a few times just about opportunities that Messiah wanted to do, as far as we met specifically once over the community garden to see whether we could make that, because if you know anything about our community garden, it's it is very popular with our Nepalese neighbors. And in fact, Jimmy and Kathy, who have been running it for years now, they're stepping down, and a gentleman named Hira is taking over the community garden for Messiah. And we're meeting with Hira in like 2 weeks, and he's one of our Nepalese neighbors. So I'll let Bhutan introduce himself to you. If you live in Reynoldsburg, he's also one of your city councilmen. Made national news because I believe you were the first Nepalese immigrant to get elected to office in the United States, or something crazy like that, right? Yeah, how's that? That's pretty cool. And he's a pretty impressive guy. So he's a hard guy not to be thankful to have around. So with that, I'll turn it over, and I'll let you talk. And then at the end, well, you can use. Oh, you want him to use this? I'm going to use this one. So at the end, give time for some questions at the end. And 7 o'clock's our goal, but 7:10 is not the end of the world.
Okay. So speak here, from here, it's fine?
Yeah, right here is fine.
Okay. All right, so namaste, everyone. So first few things, before I start, as I'm starting, I always tell these things whenever I go and speak outside. I have an accent, And as you can all understand this thing, I have accent. And I think this is my legacy from my ancestor, so which I don't want to lose. The reason is that even if I want to lose, I cannot lose it. So it will be there. So it is there. Bear with me. If you don't understand, make sure, please feel free to ask any questions in between. So the accent has given me a lot of work to do. The day before yesterday, I was making an appointment for my daughter in the doctor's office. I keep on trying. At the end, I have to disconnect because the other side could not understand what I'm talking. And I have to do online things. And I made an online appointment because the person couldn't understand my accent. So I'm experiencing this every day and all day. So that's all I'm going to tell you that one. So my name is Bhuvan Pakurel. So to make people pronounce my name, I have a little way to do that one. I call Bhu and number 1, not number 2, number 1. So Bhuvan is my name. So it is easier for people to understand that my name is Bhuvan Pakurel. And I came from a country we called in our, when we talk in between ourselves, we call it a YAM, Y-A-M, YAM. Because there are 2 big boulders. One is India, and the other one is China. And there's a small, tiny place called Bhutan. You can see that one. And we call the yam between the 2 boulders. So that is a Bhutan. And there are so many things which I'm going to talk to you in a minute. So that is the country where I came from. So there are a lot of different things in between. So the first one is, let me say first, I'll be sharing my story. The reason why I'm sharing my story is that it is related to many other Bhutanese. And towards the end, I'll be talking about what are the challenges and opportunities that we as a Bhutanese bring to this community of Reynoldsburg. And after that, I'll be keeping for questions and answers. So, and again, as I told before, you can ask me any kind of questions. If I don't answer, I'll say I don't know. If I can answer, I'm going to go answer. I'll not be embarrassed by a question. The reason is, I already went through so many of those things in my life before coming to the United States. So I have fairly pretty much everything from physical to mental, all kind of things I went through. So anything that comes in front of me today is as, okay, that's part of it. Let me follow it and go, move forward. That's what I do. So I was born in this country, which is called Bhutan, in between India and China. So my story begins. I was a little kid, as far as I can remember, 7, 8 years old, very, very Christian place. Maybe this is, I'm biased. Where you born, that place might be you like the most. That may be the biased opinion, or maybe that is true. Let's put that in a debate itself. But the place where I was born is the most beautiful place that I think. I'm not claiming it's this, but I think. And one thing for sure, there's a fact, is that it's the cleanest place. There's no development as such. The modern luxury and facilities are not there, so no smokes and all those things, no traffic, no noise. And there's only one road used to be going around. So a young boy of 7, 8 years old used to go to school regularly, come back home, take lunch or dinner, whatever, and go after the animals, look after the animals. Like we had cows, we have oxen, we have a goat, buffaloes, and those things. That was the everyday responsibilities of me after coming back from the school. And after that, maybe around, let's say 8 or 9 o'clock, with the oil lamp, sit in front of that and do your homework. And go to bed next day, take shower, go to school, come back. That was our regular thing on our life. We were happy. We had a house. We had an orange garden. We have cardamom garden. And my dad was a businessman, so we had a very beautiful life in that particular part of the country. And there was, we even as a kids, in a village, usually the senior people don't talk to the kids. I think that's true for many things, and now it's changing. I think for a good or bad, we can debate that one. But in the past, they never even considered as small kids, we need to talk and share with the things, anything. So one day, all of a sudden, we saw there was a lot of noise on the street. Only one road was there, a lot of noise. People were shouting slogans, telling this and that, and no idea what was happening there. We did not know. But we heard here and there by parents, some of people are talking, and we knew something is happening, but we didn't know for fact what is that. And the good thing, immediately what was happening was, the next few days, we were allowed to go to school in our fancy dress. Before, there was a so-called national dress we were forced to wear to go to school. But the next days, we were told that we can go to the school in any dress we would like to go. So we were wearing our cultural dress. Before, the dress of the king we had to wear to go to school. So we were going to school in our cultural dress. It was, oh, wow, they're shouting in the street and make this impact. We were happy. And there was a lot of talks here and there in the village. People were gathering and talking. I thought, we were thinking, like, I'm talking about 7, 8 years old. We were talking that, oh, things have been changing, good things, we can do this, all kind of fancy things. But that didn't last forget about a week, didn't last for days. And all of a sudden, we heard, we don't have to go to school. You know what? 7, 8 years old, if you don't have to go to school, we're happy. Yay, no school, right? That was in our mind. But it was for a different reason. We did not know. We started seeing the military vehicles running in the street, only one road. All the time, military vehicles were there. And we started hearing that people are talking about horror. And the schools were closed, and everywhere there's some militaries were there in those schools. Earlier schools were military schools. Militaries was sitting in those school buildings. But nothing happened. Nobody come to our village. But that lasts for a couple of weeks, or maybe less than a couple of weeks. Then immediately, there were so many stories we started hearing. Now this time the kids were hearing. Like people are gathering, they are talking. Who will be arrested? Who will be taken to jail? Who might have been raped by the Royal Bhutan Army? All those things happen. And in the middle of all those things, nobody, like in the village when those things happen, one person do not trust the other person. Who could be the government person? Who could not be the government person? Those things were meshing up around. Then one fine day, my parents, both my mom and dad, they came to home. It was, I think, there's no watch to say proper timing, around 3:30, 4 o'clock. I think that for 3:30, 4 o'clock, the sun was down. That's what I imagine. I was 9.5 years old at that time. And they came and they told us that we are going. And you know, when in a village, if somebody in the parents come and tell that we're going, means we only think one thing. That means they're going to market, and the reason is we're going to get a candy. And we say, hey, you're going to get candy, we're happy. And immediately, within few minutes, the environment changed, drastically changed. They were rushing. Mom was going upstairs, dad was going here and there. They were putting some stuff in the bag. And within maybe half an hour, maybe an hour or so, they just left home. And they told that they'll come back soon. We were asking, where are you going, what are you doing? They didn't say nothing, no response, nothing, just left. And left where? We don't know. When they come, soon. And I was the oldest of 4 siblings at that time in my home. And they told us or me, they told me, I was told that take care of siblings, take care of the animals, take care of the things in the house. And, okay, get it? Then they left. At that time, I became the head of the household. And I had to take care of my 3 other siblings. We had 4 cows, and the baby cows, calves, and all other households, vegetables, and all kinds of things. The good thing is that in a village, you don't have to worry about groceries. It's all managed in the house. Everything was in place. If you don't have the vegetables, go and pluck it from the and cook it, right? But learned so many things that particular day. Until that day, I might have milked cows for fun, but that time I had to do as a part of my regular day activity. I milked the cows. Then I might not have plucked the vegetables and brought and cooked until that day. I started cooking. I did, because that's possible when you really have to do it. And that kind of activity lasts for a week. or so. I don't remember actual days, but a week or so. And one fine day, my dad's friend came to our house. Until that many days, nobody dared to come to our house. There's a reason behind why nobody come. And he came and told, I was very happy to see. I mean, I was crying because of happiness. But he came and told us, you need to go. And I remember I was hanging in his clothes and crying where to go. And he just told, I don't remember all the things what he told, but I do very clearly remember, we need to go. Go where? No answer. Then after some time, I think he might have pacified me and do something, but he was so scared that if he is seen by the government people, he could be arrested, he could be beaten, he could be killed, or could be done anything else to him. So he was so scared, he didn't tell them nothing and just left. And I don't know how long I cried, and after some time settled down, cooked, feed siblings, and he also informed that when you go, let loose the animals. That's what we were told. I was told. And the next day morning, got up, cleaned the house as usual, cooked, ate, and kept all the utensils in the place. There was a big fireplace in the middle of the house. Put more firewoods, make it burning. And there's we call diya, or the lamp. We lit the lamp. And I carried the older brother, who was 2.5, and the younger brother, youngest brother, who was 1.5, was carried by my sister. She's in Netherlands right now. And we get out from the house, close the door, hoping that we will be coming back in the next few days or a few weeks. I do remember it was June. There were peaches on the outside in the patio, lying on the floor. We might have brought earlier day and kept down there, and we just started walking. And there's one road going from my town, my village name is Sure, to a town called Gelefu, and there's only one bus goes from that village to the town. So we went up, got into the bus, looking at house that will be coming back soon. And we let loose the animal. The baby cows are jumping around, running around, and cows were going and eating the cones because all cones were there. Then we left home. Left home to come back soon. And just adieu, we had two bags carried. And I don't remember I have some money, but yes, I do remember I paid some money to the bus, they call it khalasi, but the bus driver or whatever person who paid money. Then we came to the town called Gelefu. That's the other name of the town, which is the big town of that place. Until that day, all three of my siblings never rode a bus or any vehicle per se. I had been to that town once or twice with my parents before, but none of my siblings. But when you grew up in a village, everybody knows you, everybody knows your father, everybody knows your grandfather, everybody knows your great-grandfather, and everyone is there to help you. Like fairly almost all of them. Because they know all the relations. This one guy, this son, daughter, blah, blah, whatever you know. And that's how we grow up in a village. And when we get off the bus in a town called Gelefu, there were so many people running around, nobody bothers who you are. You are like one of the object, non-living thing object. Nobody bothers. We got out of the bus, we cried as much as we wanted to, nobody bothers, and we chose to start walking. Walking to find our parents. And where are they? They were somewhere else. Which direction to go? You can go to right, you can go to left, you can go to front, you can go to back, you can go to north, south, west, east, whichever. So that is the point which I think there is something called God is there. I think He's the one who directed us towards the right direction, and we walk with our own consensus. Okay, this is the place we walk. I carried the older brother, a younger brother was carried by a younger sister. She was, I think, 7 years old at that time. And we might have fallen down quite a lot in between. Nobody bothers. And because we came from a place where there's only one bus used to run. There's a bicycle, tricycle, cars, buses, all kind of things were there. So those things were too much for us. So we walk and walk. Maybe a couple of hours or more than that. But to me, it's maybe a month for me, never-ending process, but we were able to cross the border and we found our parents in the Indian town called Dadgari. So our parents, we were united there. It was not only me walking like that, but there are many, many other Bhutanese from the Nepali ethnic. They were walking like that, but nobody were there to talk each other because they didn't know who is a government person, who could be arrested. So we got reunited, and there begins my story. Union with the parents was a really good thing, but that did not last more than 2 days. We were there, they were so happy, they hugged us, they carried us, all kind of things. They might have thought so many different things, and many things happened to many other kids. We were lucky, we were saved and there. But staying there in that town called Dadgari for 2 days, after that, the largest democracy on earth, the India, and the tyrant dictator of Bhutan, the king of Bhutan, they have a very good relationship. So they made a deal that we were put into the Indian military truck and we were taken to the Nepali side of border. So you can see there is a Bhutan, that in between is India, and there's a Nepal. So from Bhutan, we escaped ourselves to India, and from India, we were transported to Nepal by the Indian military truck. Some people, they went in their own private trucks. Some people, but by the military. Military is much difficult, so if they have money, they manage to get the truck. It's a whole different gamut. But from here, it's very hard to think, but at that time, all those things happen. Then, can you move one more slide, the next one? Or how? Oh, okay. So why we left the country? There are so many things people will be asking. Why my parents immediately left right then? Those questions come, so that I put this one with the interview done by somebody else. So in between, the government of Bhutan arbitrarily started arresting people. So many people were arrested, put in the jail. And I was talking to an older gentleman a few days ago. There were 22 people arrested from one village and put in one room with their hand tied at the back. And he was kept like that for 11 months. And there were 2 containers in the middle of the room if they want to defecate. If they want to go for urine or for poop, they have to go to those things. But their hands are tied at the back. And they cannot pull their pants down. So somebody, like, if there's 22 people, one other person has to pull their pants from the back. And that happened in Bhutan jail. That gentleman here in the Reynoldsburg right now. He's 84-year-old right now. And every morning, their hands will be removed, for a half an hour. So one of those 22, 2 of those 22 has to carry those containers, throw out those things, and clean that, keep it in the room for the next day. And that was for the man. For women, here is one story. And so many women were raped and killed by Royal Bhutan Army. But many of those women are here in our society, but they don't want to come out and speak because societal taboo is there. They cannot come out and speak. That happened in real life there in Bhutan. So many were dead. They were arrested, and a few weeks later, they gave a dead body. Oh, somebody hanged and death. There was some suicide, and that body comes, and the military sits there and do the cremation. So that's how this possibility was there for my mother also. So somehow, my mother and my parents, they knew, and they just escaped immediately. So then we came to the Nepal. I'm always and ever grateful for the country Nepal for giving us a refuge. The government of India did not give us refuge for their own political reason or whatever reason, but they didn't give us refuge. But Nepal gave us refuge only in one ground, that is, we spoke same language. Our ancestor went from Nepal, for sure, but hundreds of years. But we still have the same language, so under that ground, they gave us a refuge. So our life in the refugee camp, my life as a refugee begins there. So there are very interesting thing. You might be asking, let me go a little bit forward. What was the biggest challenge as a refugee you could be facing? What do you think? Water. Second thing would be food, right? Shelter. So when we were there in the transit. When the moment we entered Nepali border, there was a transit managed by UN, because we came a little late. Earlier, people had a much difficult life. We came that late, and from there we were taken to a place called Goldhab. That's the name of the refugee camp. And we went from the truck in a private truck. Somebody reserved it, and we went there. And once we get out of the truck, we were under the tree. Sky was the roof. The branch, or what do you call the floor of our house was around the tree, as much as you want. How big bed you want, that's up to your choice. No need to worry. And also, there's no need to worry for the rain. It can come down to your head without any problem. So that was the situation in the beginning. For the next few days, somebody gave us a plastic, so we were putting the plastic one branch of the tree to other branch of the tree, and we keep our stuff under the tree, and we're sitting like that together. Everybody was together. That lasts for some time. But the biggest challenge at that time was not the water, not the food, not the shelter. All three things are out of the equation in the beginning. Defecation was the biggest challenge. Around 30,000 people were there, no toilet, no running water. So we have to go out. It's filthy. It's so bad even to tell, but we used to go out without a shoes, without a flip-flop, into the forest for defecation. A lot of time we step under those things. And for the kids, it's okay for us. That's fine. But think of an adult male, adult female, young ladies, and open defecation was normal in the beginning of the refugee camp. Many children died with diarrhea, dysentery, cholera. Multiple things happens in the beginning of the establishment of refugee camp. We came from the place where it's a cold weather, around 20, 22 degrees centigrade, which is maybe 60, 65 degrees Fahrenheit here, to the place where it is in Nepal and Tarai region is around 190 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We came from the place where the fruits, vegetables were fresh and everyday things not a problem, where he had nothing to eat. And those things happened in the beginning of the refugee life, in the refugee camp. That was in 1991, 92, 93, 94, or that stretch of time. But life has to go, move forward, right? The funny thing was that, interesting thing is that engineer, doctor, scientist, bank manager, teacher, pastor, or whatever you name it, everybody became refugee. Everybody was equal. So people, those who are there, those seniors, they came together and looked at us of that time. We need to do something else. Otherwise, what will be the life of these individuals like us at that time? So I think they came to the conclusion they need to start a school. Where, if you want to start a school, how many things do you need? Starting the city code and all those things, right? But they have nothing, they started a school. They came together and started a school. So refugee camp was here, and the school was on that side, in a forest. Let me ask you a question. I think this is an appropriate question. I'm not going to hurt you. How many of you have attended a mobile school? In a mobile, it's a mobile phone, right? A mobile school, where the school can be moved. Have you attended this mobile school? No? I'm telling this thing because a lot of time people don't understand what I'm talking about, mobile. It's a school that can be moved. That's why I'm telling that, okay? But I got to attend a mobile school. Let me tell you what was the mobile school look like. Those seniors, they decided to start a school, and the school was in the forest outside. So our classroom was one of the biggest trees. There are grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, the trees were there. So our class starts on this side of a tree in the morning. As the sun goes around, the shadow moves, our classroom moves. That's the mobile classroom. So I attended the mobile classroom, right? So once the mobile classroom was over, then things get changed, time was moving forward. Then the school was bamboo, school was bamboo, thatch roof, school building was built. It is, I don't want to say difficult thing, it was challenging, but not that of a tough than before. With no electricity, in a temperature of 100, 105 degrees centigrade Fahrenheit was a normal day. We used to go and sit on a bench, and sometimes the bench used to be like you were peeing there because that much of sweat comes down. And the roof was a plastic or the tin roof. It's super hot. So with those kind of school, I finished my 10th grade. And I was the few luckiest one to get a scholarship to go to further education. There are many who got sponsorship from some other agencies here and there and went to the local schools, but I got to go to India to further education. So there is a very interesting piece there. While I was in the refugee camp, when we started refugee camp, we didn't have a slippers or shoes, a flip-flop, whatever. And towards the end, we had some kind of flip-flops. And when I went to a school, I went to a Catholic school in Sikkim, that's in India, that is Indian state of Sikkim. One of the schools where only most affluent students from that region goes to there. So I was shocked and surprised that in that school, the kids of my age of that time used to talk about what kind of branded paint or shoes that you have. To me, whether you have a shoes or not to wear the shoes. With that mentality, I was thinking about branded shoes. I didn't have that in my concept. The kids were planning the vacation, which restaurants you want to go, and which city you want to go for this vacation, that vacation. My question was, I even didn't know there's something called a vacation. So all those things, I was struggling in the beginning, but got adjusted. There's so many kind of social, unintended consequences there because you think you cannot, because that's how you are conditioned to think. I completed my 12th grade there, and the same way I completed my I went to college there. I finished my physics. I did my graduation from physics and done those two things down there. But then immediately I thought, why don't I use my degree to start teaching? So I went back to the school where I did 11th and 12th grade, asked for a job. They hired me. I started teaching physics up to 12th grade, physics and math. So I was a math teacher there. And in the meantime, I also found my wife in the refugee camp, because I can go and come because I had a scholarship. I got married, and we had a daughter there in 2008, 7. Then I thought staying in there, because the refugee camp is still there, people are still suffering, let's go back, give back to the community which gave me so much. We came back to the refugee camp and started teaching in the refugee camp. In the meantime, United States and 7 other countries were talking about us to give the permanent solution. The Bhutanese refugees did not want to resettle anywhere. They wanted to go back to Bhutan. They tried everything to go back to their country, to do what they wanted to do. They tried all kind of means. That was not successful. Then in 2008, United States and 7 other countries decided to resettle people in the refugee camp to their countries. US promised 60,000 at that time, and some other countries, different numbers. So in that process, there's a whole different process how the vetting goes. And then we were chosen to be resettled in the United States. But in the beginning, many people did not want to come to the United States. That's kind of surprising, but I was not the one of those. I wanted to get out of this as soon as possible. But there's whole reasoning behind it, because many in the US, now I realize, think that everybody wants to come to the United States, which is, I think, fairly right assumption, but that was not true for us. The reason not want, because people are talking about, will I be allowed to speak my language? Will I be allowed to practice my faith? Will I be allowed to go and buy things outside? There's so much of misinformation was in the communities. Like there was one fairly regular misinformation. If you get old in the United States, you will be put in a fish tank. That's what there was misinformation. It was real for people, seniors, and some of them are making jokes. So how old you are? So you'll be going fish tank. So that was kind of thing there. And with those information and a lot of confusion, people did not want. But United States government, people from US government went there, educate the people, hey, this is not true. I was refugee before, I was resettled. This is what happened to me, and people start listening to those and get into resettlement process. But I wanted to come to the United States as soon as I can. That was my choice immediately. And luckily, I was chosen. So thinking from sitting in the 2023 and thinking 2007, 2008, we can make some assumption, but not a lot, because the Facebook and the internet was maybe here, but we didn't have none of those things down there. Even in the US, there's not much, right? And very limited information was provided. So for us, our family was chosen with all the vetting process, which if you have a question, I can answer those things. And we were told that you are going to this country, this place. We are given a map. One side is a map of map of Nepal, and other side was a map of the United States. And in the middle, there was one square. So you're going to go, boom, here. So we are making jokes around myself and my wife and my kids. Where are you going? You are going to a square. Because Colorado is a square, right? So the Nepal to a square. That was a joke, because that's all we knew. Then we came to the United States. So there are many, many, many things happen in between, but I'm going to share you one story. How many of you know dal bhat? Dal bhat. Just remember. Don't forget it. I'm going to ask that question to you, okay? So while we were coming to the United States, IOM, International Organization for Migration, that is the organization responsible for transporting people from the refugee camp to the United States. So there's whole different processes there, which we can talk afterwards. So we came here to the JFK. The moment we got out from the plane, there was a very interesting, now I can tell it's interesting, but at that time we believe very clearly. There was an automatic door, it just opened. So we thought that this open door policy, welcoming the refugees. The US is welcoming us. We thought and we believed that time. And I think that's true also, to me that's true. And with the automatic door, we have been welcomed into the United States in the JFK. And there are 27 other refugees traveled with me at that time. 27 of us, 24 others, 3 of us were there. And for whatever reason, they made me a leader. I don't know why. They chose me. You should be taking care of all those things. If they ask for XYZ things in the plane or after getting off. And when we were there, out of 27, 23 of them, they left immediately after, within an hour or so. People, they came, somebody picked up, somebody. And only the leaders left. My wife, my daughter, and 3 of us were left in the JFK. Now, I don't know why. At that time, no clue why they left us only. Maybe I was a leader, so they want to put me somewhere else. All kind of crazy questions were going in our head. But now I realize everybody was in East Coast. Some were New Hampshire, some were here and there. The East Coast people were picked up immediately. So we were supposed to go into Colorado, the West Coast, let's say in the middle. So our plane from New York to the Colorado was only tomorrow. So they didn't pick up nothing. Nobody told us these things will happen, no information. So we were waiting there. And we were like thinking 100 different things. So somebody came afterwards with the IOM on the badge and in the van. Hey, you need to go. So we thought the IOM, because we have seen in the past, all right, this is the right person, get into the van. We were taken to a hotel room. The interesting piece, why I'm sharing this thing is every bit of information is new and confusing and nervous. What is next? What is next? What is next? I was super hungry. So as my wife and my daughter is. My daughter was 15 months. And my daughter was breastfeeding. My wife was breastfeeding my daughter. And both of them were like so much tired, the 48 hours of transit in the airport and going here and there. And I told many of them, I want food, vegetarian food, because I was vegetarian by birth. Now I'm a vegetarian by choice at that time and now as well. So after 13 years, this is my accent. Imagine what was my accent at that time, what the other person understood. I can only imagine. So I don't know what they heard or whatever it may be. We were taken to hotel room. The guy took our bag. He told us to go there. He took our bag. I said, what's going to go? He's going to take the bags and what? Nobody, no idea. So we were taken, okay. So We didn't know what to ask. We went, and there are a bunch of other people were there. So we were given a card. 318 was written in the card. Then everybody went and got into the room. We followed as well. And afterwards, I found the room moves. And the room opened. And now I know there's an elevator. Never used the elevator before. And luckily, it was other people are coming out on the third floor. So we are good there. So it was almost 9 or 10 o'clock around that time. And we went and we stand in front of a door. That's 318. And what to do? Because I knew how to open the door by key. Never used anything other than key. And around then, I was waving my hand because we are told if you need a problem, you need to say help. Help, 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 yelling in the hotel. Somebody came and boom, opened the door. Wow, in America, door could be opened by the card, right? That was the interesting part. Went inside. I was hungry, need vegetarian food. Anything happened in between. Nothing, nobody gave us food. We drank a few cups of water and slept. In the morning, I don't know how long I slept. I was so much nervous. The heck of nervousness. We were telling, my wife and I were telling, we are sold. That these people might take us somewhere else. So now, the refugee camp would have been way better. And all kind of craps we were thinking. All nonsense were there in our head. But what to do now? Even if we were sold, then you have done now. Okay, we'll figure out what is going to happen. But we are still looking at that badge, UN badge. No, may not be true. We were talking ourselves. Then I got up in the morning and saw nearby, there were 3 boxes kept. Looking at the box, I just went and opened. I don't know whether those boxes were there at the night before when he came, or somebody came at night and kept. That is a whole different thing to think of. And I opened. And how many of you have played do you guys play the frisbee? You know the frisbee? Right? And there were 3 frisbees in the 3 different boxes. I told my wife, hey, in American hotel, they play frisbees, right? And you know what? Those frisbees, they are pepperoni pizza. Never seen the pizza before. So same thing for dal bhat. So dal bhat is a regular meal that we eat every day. Dal bhat tarkari is our food that we eat every day. And the pizza is everyday kind of things for here. Like my son wants pizza more than a dal bhat today. So it is nothing of a big deal. It's neither good nor bad, but it's a new thing. So that with the frisbee experience, the next day things happened. We were taken to Colorado. Nervousness came down, but we had a $15 in our pocket. And that $15 became so big that I was thinking, should I spend it or keep it? If I spend, what are you going to do when you landed up in Colorado? If I don't spend, I'm hungry. What do I do? Or if I want to spend, how to spend is the question again. Whether to go and give me a grape in my language, or tell what does the grape is called a grape here. Whole different things were rolling around the head. But there's one guy from IOM, I don't know. If I were to meet him, I would give him like a few $100. He bought a box of grape, glass of grape for us. So I was trying to give him $15, whatever. He said, no, keep it. So I'm so lucky he didn't take my $15. So I don't know who was that person, but I wish I met him and gave him that due, but he paid for me. Then we ended up in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We were there for 15 months, where our son was born there. So he always tells, because we talk about, what is your motherland? He tells, my motherland is Colorado Springs. We call our motherland Bhutan, right? So he was born in Colorado Springs. And moved to Denver, Colorado. We were there for 6 years. In Denver, Colorado, there are 2 things. One of the thing is that what new is a question. When it's so new, a pizza become a frisbee, right? And when I came to Colorado Springs at that time, I wanted to work. That was something which really I want. I want to work because being a refugee means so many things. But the tag is there, you are worthless. You are useless. You are less than a human because you cannot work. Because the moment you work, you pay tax. Moment you pay tax, you have power. That was missing. I wanted to work. So immediately the next day, I started going to work in 7-Eleven. Today I came, following day I was in 7-Eleven. But I volunteered in 7-Eleven for 11 days. That was a night shift, going from 10 p.m., coming back 6 a.m. for 11 days, yes, in a 7-Eleven. Then after that, they hired me. So I started working. I was so proud. Now I realized I was exploited to the max, because I used to work from 10 p.m. sometime to 4 p.m. the next day. And I was not even paid a dime for overtime. And now I realize for the night shift, they pay higher wage. But I was paid minimum $7.25. I was so happy. I didn't think of asking questions. And now I realize all those things never happen. I never even think of that those were my rights. And after working for maybe 10 months or so, we moved to Denver. A very bad situation with that employer. The day my son was born, he fired me because I asked for higher wage. Instead of giving me higher wage, he said, okay, man, go. So, all right, then we left. Then we left Colorado Springs, went to Denver, stayed there for 6 years. Then we were all intended to plan to buy a house, start our family there. All plan was there, and whole thing changed. My dad, he passed away a year and a half ago. He had a skin condition where he had dry skin. He was told by a doctor that if he goes to a lower elevation area, his skin disease will be cured. At that time, he did not think of California or Florida, but he thought of Ohio. So he decided to move. So he moved. In our family system, still the elder in the family makes the decisions. The younger one needs to follow. So as my dad decided, and entire family moved to Columbus. Then we moved, and we were here, and luckily his disease was cured too. He was all good until he died at 98, so it's a good age. He had a successful life in that sense. Then we came here in Columbus. After coming to Columbus, many things happened. There are a few things which are significant. I became a first executive director of Bhutanese Nepali Community Center, Ohio at that time. Then I started working for Primary One Health. Still I'm working. I manage the language and interpretation services for the company. But when you leave Bhutan, when we left Bhutan at when 9.5 years old of age, at that time I was thinking, why only me? Why so many other people not happening to those people? Why I have to leave the country? Those things were there rolling in my head all the time, in the head of 7, 8, 9 years old child of that time. But after coming here in the United States, in 2000, we came in 9, and 2015 we were qualified to apply for the naturalization process. In 2016 September, we finished June, July, around that time, I don't remember the date. We had to sit for the test. We passed the test. We are qualified. And September 3rd, I believe, of 2015, we got the biggest, largest, the most precious gift in our life. That's the day that we were naturalized and became a citizen of the United States of America. Yeah. Then, during the naturalization process, and if you have not been to naturalization, make sure please go there. Always federal judge presides this ceremony. And he told two different things. Congratulations as the newest citizen of this country. I am the first person to congratulate you. As a newest citizen, you have two important responsibilities and duties. Let me ask, what are those two? Pay taxes, vote. And the federal judge told that two important duties and responsibilities is to, one is to vote, and the other one is to run for public office. And, what's that? To run for public office. Then I thought, at that time, that is the precious moment in my life ever. I don't think I'll have a better than that day. in this life. I don't think there's any possibilities. I don't see any possibilities. So I thought that moment that is the federal judge giving me an order that you got to do these two things. I promised with myself that I will vote as long as I'm alive, wherever the opportunity comes, and I will one day run for public office to fulfill the order of a federal judge. So with that federal judge's order, I decided to run for public office in 2019, and I won, and I became the first Bhutanese American to win an election in the United States, and I am the council member, city council member here today. So, I have nothing but thankful gratefulness for all the Americans, for this country. I know there are many problems, but today, with a lot of facts to what's the statement, a lot of reasoning, I can tell that this is the best country on earth. Why? The reason, maybe there could be many reasons. This is a fact. This is the best country on the earth, it's a fact. People can dispute this, let them dispute. But if they have a numbers, they have a reasoning behind, I can agree. Otherwise, I cannot agree with anybody's statement. Doesn't mean that there are no problems. There are problems there. In spite of that, this is the best country on earth. The reason is that. The reason is this. In 2009, July of 2009, if, big IF, if I were resettled in Saudi Arabia instead of United States, would I be like this today? Absolutely not. Why that's possible? Because of the system and the people of this country. I can tell and speak my mind, and I can do what I want to today. So I want to thank America, thank all of you, and thank this opportunity, and thank you, America. Thank you. Not wrong. A lot of people go that one also, but maybe you're right. That's you need information, factual things are a little different, but that's not absolutely wrong. Many people do like to say themselves Nepali, but I'll tell you why. Our ancestors went to Bhutan as back as 1660 AD, and in the process, many people went. When that country was not even recognized, not that there's all forest, nobody was inhabitant. It was part of Tibet or something. It's not even something like that. So until 1907, there were so many small feudal kings, theocratic monks used to rule that land. In 1907, the British India appointed Ugen Wangchuk as a king of that. British recognized. And with the British recognition, that individual considered the administrator of that land, and he considered himself as a hierarchical king. Then people from the Nepali origin from Nepal were staying in that land before he became a king. He is from the Tibet, our people from the Nepal. And our people speak Nepali language, Nepali culture, Nepali food, Nepali religion, Nepali custom, Nepali tradition. He has Tibetan things. So he became a ruler, and he considered himself as a superior to the other residents of the land. So being a Nepali ethnicity, a lot of people train to call themselves a Nepali, but Nepali ethnic, but not a Nepali citizen. We are a Bhutanese citizen, we were Bhutanese citizen, and I love that. I love myself to be called a Bhutanese. The reason is that our citizenship right was snatched, grabbed, and put in a trash by that king in a very brutal and unjust manner. So we may not be able to go back to that land, but what I can do is I can come out and tell all of you, continues to tell my story, and tell that that king has done injustice, And one day, maybe after my death, after my death of my son, one day, I can just imagine only, that will be recognized by somebody else. So I go and I have a lot of different smaller projects which I do as a passion project, collecting the stories, those things I do. And that's why I call myself a Bhutanese American, because the Bhutanese is the word that I would like to keep close. All right, okay.
I know you do a lot of community work with helping neighbors' problems and things like that. As part of your nature to help people solve their problems. For this audience here, what are some of the problems that some of the families that you work with have with their next door neighbors, and it might be interesting for them to
Okay.
hear what their concerns are.
Thank you, Pastor. So that was next thing which I would like to talk. So there are close to 40,000 Bhutanese Americans are here in Central Ohio region. Maybe more, but I'm going to the conservative number. And there are many super successful Bhutanese Americans are there. My brother, who was a year and a half when we came out of that country, now he owns a mortgage business, a company. He's a CEO of a company, and I think he makes 6 figures and more. So he is doing an excellent job. I think he has, 25, 30 people who works for him. And there are many, many other Bhutanese Americans who are doing excellent job. So proud of them. And at least 2 of them are junior scientists in NASA, not from Ohio, but anywhere. So everybody counts. There's so good things happening. With that said, there is also a sizable population of Bhutanese American struggling to get in the life. The challenges are, number 1, language barrier, language challenge, which I told you just before. I was not able to make an appointment for my daughter. And I'm one of the few who speaks English, okay English. I don't want to say great English, okay English. I speak 3 other languages. Those 3 other language ability doesn't count. I'm not blaming anybody. But in this system, those are my ability of knowing 3 other languages has no value. But my ability of having my ability or disability of having this accent has a very big reason that I could not make an appointment 2 days ago for my daughter, just because of my accent. So think of a person who went to a Nepali language school, who knows Nepali only, who reads Nepali only, who writes Nepali only, and also if they are senior citizens. Already there are so many barriers for any senior citizens, and with the language and a system is one of the big barriers. One thing. Second thing, mental health is a big problem, in both sense, and 2 sense, let me say that one. One is, I think this is true for all the communities, and I tend to think it's a little bit more for the Bhutanese American community, the taboo of mental health, and I don't get that word in English. We have a saying that you have a future in your head already. So whatever you do, that is going to happen. What's the right word for that? You can define that word. I don't know. That destined, you are going to destined what not you do. Those kind of fatalistic attitude, let's say that one, is much more in certain members of our community. I'm not telling blanket generalization of all. So that is one thing. And second thing is that there are a lot of mental health resources in our system here based on research and everything based on European population. And the resources there based on European population, the need is there in the different ethnic and refugee communities. The resource and the need is not meeting. And availability of the resource doesn't make any sense because of a lack of understanding between these 2. That's the second thing. Third thing, as you are here in Reynoldsburg, I am also responsible for that because I'm an elected officer also, which I have to think, I have to be politically correct when I talk, which is unfortunate. But I'm literally blunt in this certain situation, whatever, when I'm going to see the consequence after what's going to happen, right? So I want to go blunt here. So one thing, Reynoldsburg has quarter of a population is a Bhutanese, I believe. 1/4 of the population is a Bhutanese American, I believe. It could be up and down, maybe few hundred, but I should be fairly correct, not 1,000. It should be up and down by hundreds, not by 1,000. So significant size of population. But if you see the emails from our school system, or voicemail from our school system, majority of them comes in English only today. I'm not telling this, I'm not blaming. There's a lot of work needs to be done. And
You're saying, I'm going to clarify, so you're saying that a quarter of the population is Bhutanese Americans, and yet the Ransom School District isn't making any sort of accommodations for that?
Reynoldsburg school districts are making, but not making in the pace they need to be making.
To the parents?
Yes. The reason is that there are so many parents reach out when there's, let's say, schools are closed immediately. So many of them, they might get a voicemail in Nepali, but many of them, they don't. My point is, yes, we should do Facebook, we should do that robocall, we should write in English, we should write in Nepali, everything we should do so that it gets into the community on time. Otherwise, only one section of a society will be educated. That is the second thing. Third thing, if we try, things could happen. I know for sure. But the willingness to try is not there. And again, my worry here is that I'm not blaming anybody. I'm telling what I think. I'm being blunt. Let me give you an example. Last year, 2022, we made one significant change in the city, which I was supported by the administration, and we did that one. The celebration of Diwali. You might have heard, many of you have attended, I don't know. And I was asked by chief of police, mayor, Bhutan, how many people will be coming there? And to my honesty, I told that maybe 1,500 people. I did not think that many more people would be coming. But I was given the free will how I want to do the things. City was in support of it. I was given free will. So I did use my understanding how should I reach to the population whom I know the most. Then we decided to spend 0 dime in advertisement. We spent 0 dime, absolutely 0. No money was spent in advertisement. And we want to do the minimum must budget for any kind of event. So only essential things were bought. Then I would told them maybe 1,500, and the miraculous number, if there's some miracles happen, that could be 2,000. That was what I told to the chief. And okay, Bhuvan, that's fine, we'll manage it. And you know what, on the day of event, we were supposed to be starting at 3 o'clock in a public forum, but we internally decided we'll be starting at 3:15 was the time we decided inside. And at 3:15, we started the event. By 3:30, there were 800 cars. And more than 7,000 people attended the event. So you may be asking why, how could that happen? That was because I had a free will to do how I wanted to do, number one. And I was not questioned why you want to do this and all those things. I didn't have to reason out to anybody because I could do that thing, because I didn't misuse nothing, right? And what I did was, we did a Facebook Live from our community page. And I also went to the informal leader who speaks Nepali, but they are well-recognized individuals. And I told them, hey, do you want to do a Facebook Live from your page? Don't need to do nothing. Just go and tell, hey, these things happening there. So they are very well-known, but they speak only Nepali. So for the mainstream, like say police or fire or a school, or what they'll do, they will come to me because I speak English. But they'll not come to him or her because that person may be influential, may be knowledgeable, but that knowledge, that influence has no value because that's English is not there. So what I did, I used that knowledge, that power, that value in the community, and it worked. And that's the proof. So I think that our system needs to understand how to utilize. I'm not talking about only Bhutanese. I think this is true for any immigrants communities. Any immigrant community does work. I do have a conviction, a belief. But if somebody gives me an opportunity to use it, I'll use it and prove it. Otherwise, I have to tell and go, right? That's the third thing. I don't know, Pastor, how many want to say? The fourth thing. During the COVID pandemic, we learned a lot of lessons. And unfortunately, we lost many of our friends. And February, March of 2020, right? Not 19, 2020 was a time that we used to sit in front of a computer or in front of television, and all of us say, what's going to do? Dr. Atkin, what's he going to tell? What's Governor DeWine's going to tell? What's the governor of New York going to tell? What's the governor of Texas will be telling? What's the governor, let's say, New Hampshire is going to tell? We were like every governor's speech we were watching. Is that true or not? Yes. But I'm not telling in hindsight, after 3 years retrospective, anybody can tell these things could have been done better. But I was telling at that time only. And I'm making it right now also. And I did, under my capacity, what I could. I had a little bit of power. I did use that thing and do things which I wanted to do. Governor was doing in English only. He even did not intend to do in even Spanish. Forget about other smaller languages. After 3 or 4 weeks, at least he was trying to do in Spanish. I don't know this intentional, unintentional, emergency, but emergency comes to any ethnic communities. Whether you speak English or non-English, emergency is emergency, right? Everybody is scared to death at that time. We were like, if you see a person maybe a mile away, oh, that COVID might run away and come to me. That was the situation at that time. And the communication did not happen to the pockets of smaller communities. So what happened, the consequence of that one? I was sitting in front of a computer. I was understanding all those things. We were nervous to death, like all of you. But our members of our community, they were all, oh, nothing. What's going on? There was nothing. They was walking around, jumping, playing, all those things, nonsense were happening. They were doing their regular, let's say in the Christian tradition, that you call prayer, we call bhajan kirtan. And they were doing all bhajan kirtan. People are coming together. Nobody was sick. And they were telling, this is all nonsense. This is kind of cold. They didn't believe at all. And I was, why are these things happening? I didn't know. But you know the reason behind? It's a fact. The reason is, if you see the data now, and anybody can predict now. At retrospect, it's easy. You can become a scientist retrospectively. The COVID came to the US before other smaller countries. Nepal, there was nothing when there were so much of things in here. So people are telling that immunity in Nepal is strong, blah, blah, blah. They were giving all kind of nonsensical explanation, being a scientist, why it's not going to affect Nepal. And they were watching a Nepali news. And they were all making the fun of the COVID in Nepal because nothing is happening there. Why that's happening? Because that's the only thing they were understanding. And here, all things are happening. They were doing in English. Nobody understand. They was there. So what I did was, with the help of a Nepali-speaking doctor here in Chillicothe, and I started watching these televisions and news and started making a note myself. And I became a news anchor. And after 5 o'clock or so, I started doing a Facebook Live, my own. This thing happened, this many people dead, this thing happened in Ohio, blah, 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 blah. I was getting sometime 90K views in a few hours. That many people watched. And after the doctor moved forward and many different things were done. And why I'm bringing this one is because the communication is not happening. We tried, but we do try the way we think is right. We did not have an extra effort to make what way is right to your group, to your community. I think that is the challenge. I can go to the list, many other lists. I can also tell that what are the things done better, particularly in our city, in Reynoldsburg. There are many changes have been made. Like in city of Reynoldsburg, in any city business, if there is a need of interpretation is there, we have an interpretation system in place, which is a crucial, very important things. They are working on it. And many more to do, but that's the best thing we can do. I have suggested them basic documents need to be translated into at least top 3 languages of our school district. I think that will be justified. Why not all 70 different languages? Because there's no people to use. What's the point of doing that one? But at least top 3 are languages. These are some of the things. And yeah, any other questions? Because I'm just watching at the watch. I am here to sit. Any number of questions I can answer, but it's your time. Being in a council person, uh, there are three different things. One is the honor. It is perfectly an honor. It's a great thing to serve. Absolutely, I have nothing, absolutely nothing. I always feel grateful the moment I go to the city hall. I always thank this country, people, and the system that has given me this opportunity. Super, super happy. So that is there. Number one. Number two, when you go in the business, when you choose to go to that business, you got to do something which is not good for everybody else. Some people may agree, some people may disagree. What I do is I read and try to educate myself as much as possible in the certain subject matter, what comes, usually the controversial one. And I try to convince myself, yes, this is what I'm going to do. And I ask people around, hey, what do you think? Random people. Majority of our population, they don't know what is that happening. I have no clue, unfortunately. And some people, they keep their opinion. After that, I make up my mind, go and vote in my consensus. Sometimes I'm the only one voting one side, and the majority of the people vote other side. And I convince myself that is what I should do, and that's why I'm voted for. That's second thing. And third thing is, get to learn a lot. Never in the past been in the side of the table where you make a decision. I was always in the position of following somebody else's decision. So here, I have a say in decision making. I can tell this is not the right thing, and which is going to happen. Which is awesome, right? If I go and tell this is not the right thing, I don't want this to happen, and I want this many numbers, and things happen. And which is the, I should say, power of the elected office. So I feel all the three things. Thank you.